Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here with my next Avatar news update video. This time out, just one piece of news, but it's a pretty significant piece of news about Avatar Legends Realms Collide. So this is the mobile game that is out now in 3 countries. It's in a bit of a soft launch phase. It's going to roll out in other countries as the weeks go on, but we don't really have a clear-cut idea about how many countries, how quickly that actually is going to go. So we're in a bit of a weird spot where the game is out some places, but not out most places. But they did their Q&A. They allowed people to ask questions. I sent in my 3 questions and I got an answer. Other people got answers too, but surprisingly, I do feel like, apart from some relatively minor details where like they gave the ages, I think, of some of the other characters and minor details like that, I feel like my questions were like the only ones that really got like I would say a significant answer, because a lot of them were like the questions were like answered like as if they were being answered by Chanyu, and you know, a lot of questions about, say, Father Glowworm were just ignored for, I guess, spoiler reasons, even though, like, the game was out in a technical test for weeks. It was out in 3 regions. We know it's Father Glowworm, but they obviously don't want to talk about that yet. So, again, my questions have got a more serious answer. So, as a reminder, what my questions were. 1. A definitive statement on if the game is canon, non-canon, partially canon. Just clarify that. 2. What era is Chanyu from? And I clarified that basically what I mean is, who is the avatar at the time when Chanyu is born? What era is he from? And then my last question was basically, hey, right now the game has Avatar characters, Korra characters, and then avatars, like there's Roku, there's Kyoshi, and we assume maybe some other avatars. There's avatars from basically different eras. But my question was, are there going to be characters from those other eras? So I got my answer here. So straight away, I really appreciate that the answer was just straight up to the point. The game is not canon. Wonderful. So I'm glad they said that, because I was half expecting a response that was sort of like, well, it's written by the official ATLA people, so it's like official, which is not what I asked. No, they just say the game is not canon. They understand what I mean by that, as in the story with Chanyu and everyone, does that link in to the history of other kind of related things? And their answer is no. And they say the game is not canon. Thanks to this, leaders will have the possibility to unite, interact with, train, and lead legendary characters from across the Avatar universe, including Avatar The Last Airbender, Avatar Legend of Korra, best-selling comic books, and more. Additionally, it's a great opportunity to experience an all-new epic storyline that unfolds as you fight to restore balance in your world. Chanyu is born in a different storyline from the current Avatar narrative. So there's the answer to my second question, which is that this is the way they're kind of wording it, is that he is in a different storyline, as in effectively this is alternate universe Avatar. That's how they're justifying having all the characters from different timelines interact, is that this is the Avatar Legends Realms Collide sort of timeline universe where this kind of crazy stuff is allowed to happen. The only current avatars in his life are the ones that leaders are summoning from the past to defeat him. So they're very much not committing to any sort of a thing where, at least right now, there's any clarification about who the avatar from his era is. They're being very like, this is a different realm, effectively. With regards to my last question, they answered part of it here by doing this, but then they also say other heroes from different eras could join Avatar Legends Realms Collide in the future, including heroes from the best-selling comic books and more. Now, the point here is that this is obviously from their marketing stuff. This is up on the Google Play Store description. It says the comics. But the comics, if you've read them, of course, are only ATLA and Korra comics. And I don't think they're trying to be tricky here by saying that, well, oh, in the Rift, there's some Yang Chen flashback, so Boma is going to be in the game. I don't think they necessarily mean that. They're just saying, okay, comics for sure, but that doesn't really say anything about other eras. But the fact that they do kind of say from different eras, but we already know for sure that it's the Avatar and Korra era. So to me, them specifying eras here likely means that there will be characters from the other eras. And then you also would ask the question of like, okay, best-selling comics and more. So if they've already covered the 2 shows and the comics, what does and more actually mean for Avatar? And realistically, the only thing it could mean is the novels, the RPG, and other kind of canon material, which if you're going for the RPG and the novels, you're basically dealing with the other eras. So with regards to my final question about effectively like, are we actually going to see characters from the other eras? The answer seems to sort of be probably if we get there. But they can't confirm it right now, I guess, because it would technically spoil some of their new character reveals. But reflecting on all of this, of course, now that we've gone through what the details actually are. So what does it mean? Where does this put the game now that the game is confirmed to be non-canon? Obviously, the sense of this game feeling important kind of falls away a little bit, because the story stuff here you don't need to care about if you only care about canon. I'm sure there's going to be probably some interesting story stuff with however they execute what they have going on here, because I'm interested in Father Glowworm and seeing if like how much detail they go into telling the story of Chan Yu meeting Father Glowworm, that changing him, and then how they actually go about, like, I suppose in this storyline alternate universe thing, you know, doing the defeat of a character who is influenced, empowered by Father Glowworm. Like, what way are they going to do this multi kind of universe, you know, multi-timeline characters defeating it, multiple avatars working together? How's that going to work? Is there going to be some cutscene that shows Aang and Korra teaming up to take out Chan Yu or what? There's still some potential in the story, even if it is non-canon. It just, I think, overall takes a little bit away in terms of a lot of people are probably happy to know this now, and they can just be like, okay, I don't need to focus on this game that much because the style of game that it is doesn't particularly interest me, and now there's no real story kind of potential here. I don't need to focus on this. Whereas that, I think that was the thing with Avatar Generations, was that people, even if the game wasn't for them, they would still keep up with what was going on in the game because there was new story content and the ability to show off like new canonical characters. And so here now we know, okay, a lot of the new characters aren't really canon, but that maybe later on in the game there is going to be the potential for characters from other eras. And what we're really talking about there is basically when we get to say like Kyoshi era stuff. Obviously we're going to be waiting for, you know, the obvious characters, Rangi, Yoon, Kelsang, Jeonju, but the characters that Generations didn't get to, so the Flying Opera Company members, you know, Lao Ge, Kirima, Wong, Lek, are they going to do them in this game and give them, you know, official depictions? Because even though you would say the game is overall not going to be canon, this official game creating like official art for the characters would make that depiction of them effectively canon, is sort of the way to kind of view it. At least there would be a visual to go up on like the wiki for those specific characters, even if of course what they do in the game isn't kind of canonical from a story perspective. At least we have a official design for the characters. That's what the hope now for this game is, because even though I think a lot of people have not played it yet, I do get the sense that this game is probably going to make more people bounce off it than Avatar Generations did. So unless the storytelling here with the AU stuff is actually really, really strong, the fear here is just that does the game really have anything for Avatar fans who are maybe not super invested in the style of game that this is? And a lot of these questions kind of do lean towards, yeah, this probably isn't the game for you. And so, yeah, the hope would be that the heroes, they eventually get to introducing really interesting and new characters. Because even to a certain degree, like, what comic characters are they going to include? That's a bit of an interesting one. Like, who are they talking about there when it comes to that? Because they specify that on its own there. Comic characters, but who are they talking about? Like, there's no way, like, we're going to introduce, like, Ki into this, but, you know, who are we discussing here? Gilak, you know, those type of things. That's a bit of an interesting one to even just consider who those are. It's actually probably easier to pick out characters from the novels that would make sense to be in the game. And that's just kind of where we're at. So, yeah, my plan is still, obviously, when the game comes out, I plan to do at least a certain amount of coverage on it when it gets officially released or whatever happens. But I do get the sense that I probably won't be doing as much content on this game as I did with Avatar Generations, just because of the style of game that it is, and the fact that the answer to these questions goes against sort of what I typically would want to do on the channel, which is covering the canon material, and they're obviously saying that this game is not canon. And that's the point. The final thing I'll say here is just that this game, even if you address that it is quite complicated with a lot of what's going on here, you could have done this in a way where you made Shan Yu and the stuff going on around him and the Shattered Skulls, make them canon, but just establish that for gameplay purposes, you want to use the main characters of the franchise. The characters that you play as in the missions, your heroes, are not really technically part of the story. It is just leaders and heroes from the timeline defeating the Shattered Skulls. And they have their own story in a specific timeline, as in, like, Glowworm. This is part of Glowworm's official history, what's going on here. There was a way to potentially do that, but they chose this, I guess, to maybe give themselves a little bit more freedom, to perhaps not overcomplicate things with saying, well, this is canon, but this isn't. But that's just the situation there. Avatar Generations, I think, handled it pretty well by establishing that, hey, when there's basically cutscenes going on, it's canon. But the characters that you're using in the fights are not necessarily canonical because you can have them from different timelines. That sort of situation. So yeah, in the comments, let me know what your thoughts are on this. The game being confirmed in terms of its story to be non-canon. Where are you at with that? Your thoughts on the story, your thoughts on what you've seen so far of the game itself, and I suppose, perhaps one thing lingering in terms of overall interest, that it perhaps still has the potential to introduce characters in a somewhat similar way to Avatar Generations. But let me know in the comments below what your thoughts are. But that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.